Wrath of the Lich King Classic servers have been an overwhelming success. By all metrics, it is overachieved and gone above and beyond what we saw with the Burning Crusade. There's been so much interest in players that have been getting into Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and we're not even on a good patch yet. Like, this is the worst patch of Wrath, where we're in Naxxramas, basically a heroic dungeon. Things only start getting actually good when it comes to the Ulduar release, but we haven't seen that yet. Despite all that, Wrath of the Lich King has seen a tremendous amount of active players. However, this begs the question, what comes after Wrath of the Lich King Classic? In the past, the answer was, of course, Cataclysm. This was the expansion that revamped the world, major design changes that started in Wrath of the Lich King that were accelerated in Cataclysm, and was quite a controversial expansion. A lot of people didn't like it. In fact, the player base numbers, for the first time ever, started to see a decline, whereas before, World of Warcraft saw a subscription number increase pretty much expansion after expansion. This was the first time that didn't happen. And, you know, it destroyed the old leveling zones and revamped them into the new Cataclysm leveling experience, which some people do not like, and I would say I'm one of them. The problem with this is this classic era experiment that we've been on, I think has quite clearly shown that it's not just nostalgia. We actually prefer the older version of World of Warcraft. Nostalgia doesn't last for about, what, 4 years now since I think World of Warcraft Classic came out. So it's fair to say this isn't just rose-tinted glasses. We actually prefer this older version of the game. With Cataclysm, this older version of the game isn't really that anymore. It fundamentally changes. And this isn't my opinion, this was the actual idea behind Cataclysm WoW. We're literally wiping the slate clean and we're creating new leveling zones, new everything. Is it really classic WoW? Can we really have classic Cataclysm servers? Now the answer is obviously yes. Like, Blizzard could literally copy and paste the files from Cataclysm. In fact, the Cataclysm leveling zones are already in the live game, so it would be very easy for them to copy and paste it, put them on servers, and yeah, just basically print money out of nothing. It seems like that is the best choice for Blizzard to make, but here is why it isn't. The problem with this is that it's very short-sighted. We have a tremendous amount of momentum from Wrath of the Lich King Classic. It's been an overwhelming success. There's good momentum here. Now, we know for a fact, based on how Cataclysm was received in its day, the subscription numbers went down quite drastically, in fact. And it gets worse from there. Like, let's not just think about this from one expansion. If Blizzard goes down the route of creating classic era servers from Wrath of the Lich King onwards, what comes after Cataclysm Classic? Mists of Pandaria Classic. I mean, come on, who wants to play that? So it's very short-sighted to go down this route where it seems like this is the easiest choice to make for Blizzard. They can literally copy and paste the Cataclysm files onto a server and call it a day. It requires basically zero investment from them, and it's just an easy choice for them to make. What comes after that? Mists of Pandaria, where we know there's going to be a fraction of the amount of people playing Mists of Pandaria Classic servers, which just sounds funny to say. Those words coming out my mouth sound ridiculous. Mists of Pandaria Classic servers, there's going to be a fraction amount of players actually playing that, compared to what we have with Wrath of the Lich King and Burning Crusade and Classic WoW. On the other hand, if Blizzard were to make a separate timeline, like a classic era World of Warcraft, like a vanilla plus, for lack of a better term, yes, it would require a lot more investment, but I think unanimously everybody that played any era of classic WoW will return to play vanilla plus. Let's just call it Time Rift WoW. So we have Time Rift WoW, which has a separate timeline that is not the same as retail WoW. It has, you know, new dungeons, new zones, new rebalancing of classes, and so on and so forth beyond Wrath of the Lich King. Or it could literally be its own standalone thing, starting from level 60. It could be that. I think there's a lot of creative ways to approach this vanilla plus experience that would absolutely be intriguing to a tremendous amount of people, and it could surpass retail WoW in the amount of people actively playing it. The best one-to-one example we have of this is RuneScape. Like, RuneScape basically divided its game into like 2 timelines and 2 versions of the game. There's old school RuneScape and there's retail RuneScape. Old school RuneScape has a much higher active player base than the regular live retail RuneScape. We could be in that kind of situation with Vanilla Plus or Time Rift WoW. The point being is, there's a lot of upside here. If Blizzard wants to make money, and you know they do, yes, it requires more investment to develop this classic era expansion and revamp the game and seriously create content in the era and time of classic that is actually new. That requires development time, investment, and competence. But the upside of how much money you can make is so much more. Whereas if they go with Cataclysm Classic, you might have about half of the active player base that we have in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, but that's gonna quickly dwindle when we come to the next expansion, which is Classic Mists of Pandaria. Then it's going to be a tiny fraction of people actually playing that. So this, in my opinion, is the real crossroads that we're in with World of Warcraft Classic. The Classic era players, for lack of a better term, that we are. If Blizzard makes Cataclysm Classic servers, I think that it'll be 50-50 if us guys will actually play it. Some people do miss Cataclysm, some people don't, but the point being is that it's a mixed bag, whereas Wrath of the Lich King Classic was not a mixed bag. It was the highest point of WoW's active subscriber base, and it only goes downhill from there with Cataclysm. However, Vanilla Plus, honestly, who wouldn't be interested to play that? A new experience, kind of like old school RuneScape, where they make content that's built upon the classic era experience, with new dungeons, new raids, new everything. That would be so intriguing to so many people. There is so much upside for Blizzard there when it comes to getting players and new players. Whereas the low-hanging fruit, yeah, it is Cataclysm Classic. It's very short-sighted and it's very temporary. Before there was like a clear answer, you know, when we were in WoW Classic launch, you know, we had Burning Crusade to look forward to, then Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and it followed this obvious trajectory where the active player base increased expansion after expansion. This isn't the case anymore. This is the first point where we're not really going into what many people believe to be the classic experience. So if Blizzard wants to retain us classic era players and even attract more players, I think they have to go down the route of Vanilla Plus. The classic era players and the retail players are kind of comparable. Like, it's not like we're just this tiny niche. If you look at Google Trends and compare Wrath of the Lich King and Dragonflight, it's pretty comparable. The amount of interest and searches it gets on Google Trends is sizable enough that you could justify Vanilla Plus and creating basically a different game to retail WoW. But going down the route of Cataclysm Classic servers, I think, is a fundamental mistake. It's a downhill strategy. Like, we know this. The active player base numbers, when they were publicizing those numbers, don't lie. The interest of Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, and so on servers is just going to be so much lower. I want you guys in the comments to tell me what you think is going to happen. Do you think we'll get Cataclysm Classic servers and onwards, or Vanilla Plus? Like, what do you think Blizzard is going to do? I think it's high time that Blizzard actually risks something and puts a bit of investment into the classic era community. You know, they've been copy and pasting files and putting them on servers for a bit too long. I think it's high time you actually develop something new for the classic era experience. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like and subscribe.